even in yourself, which brings me back to what I was saying before about choosing positive thoughts. So even when I'm having a tough time, a down day, something's going on, recent loss of somebody who was really dear to me, that sort of thing, you're bound to be affected by difficult things in life, but I can still choose more positive thoughts or choose them as well.
Cue music. Places, everybody places. We're starting in 3, 2.
Welcome to the Autoimmune Hour, where we look at the rise of autoimmune disorders. I've brought together top experts that range from doctors, specialists, nutritionists, researchers, and even those recovering from autoimmune to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information about autoimmunity and how to live your life uninterrupted.
Thank you for joining us here on the Autoimmune Hour with Sharon Sayler. Always seek sound legal, medical, and or professional advice regarding any problems, conditions, and any of the recommendations you see, hear, or read here on the Autoimmune Hour, Understanding Autoimmune, and Life Interrupted Radio. Join the Autoimmune Hour's Courage Club. Sign up now at understandingautoimmune.com. Now, back to your host, Sharon Sayler.
Welcome, everyone, to the Autoimmune Hour. I'm Sharon Sayler from SharonSayler.com, and I'm laughing because I'm here with a dear, dear friend of mine. And one of the things we do is laugh a lot. And we were chatting before the show started. And sometimes you chat with gallows humor. Anyway, it was funny. I'm here. Yeah, it was. that was Liberty Forrest. I'll introduce her in a second. I'm here with my chai tea tonight, and I've got oat milk in there, so it's just delicious. And I know, guys, don't email me. I know chai is not the healthiest thing. But goodness sakes, it's January 2022, and it's cold outside here, and it just seemed like I want that, so I'm going to do that. And sometimes we have to do that. Yes, when we're recovering from autoimmune, we have a lot of you have to's. And sometimes you just want to do what you want to do. So tonight I'm having chai, and I'm having my dear friend Liberty on the show. We're going to talk about it because I was talking to her the other day. I had such high hopes for 2021. I really did. And here we are in 2022, and I just feel like that old Yogi Berra comment about deja vu all over again. So anyway, she recently wrote an article on Medium about having fun. I said, come on the show. Let's talk about having fun, whether we're having fun virtually in our little bubble or by ourselves. So let me introduce her. You guys probably know her. She's been on the show before. She's an award-winning author, speaker, and contributor to Huffington Post and many other places. She's just got a great following over at Medium as well. And she's a senior contributor to SportsEdTV and written for over 50 publications worldwide. And tonight, we're just going to have fun. I don't know where it's going to go, sometimes with Liberty. And as you guys know from having other friends on the show, who knows where it's going to go. So just, I'll say fasten your seatbelts, put on your laughing gear, and let's get going. Hi, Liberty. How are you?
Hi, Sharon. That was a great introduction. Yeah, buckle up. That sounds about right.
Well, I know you're the master of the really dumb jokes. So,
yeah,
and I know you're not offended me by saying that, because sometimes it's in your bio. You got one to share with us today, a really dumb joke?
Oh, yes. What did the policeman say to his belly button?
Oh my goodness. What did the policeman say to? I have no idea.
You're under a vest.
Oh dear. Now that sounded like Witchy's voice there. She's also the creator.
That is Witchy's voice over there.
She's also the creator of Witchy. So you can find Witchy on all sorts of social media, including Patreon and Ko-fi and Medium. So anyway, let's just jump in. I loved your article about having fun.
Thank you.
And
it's fun to write it.
Yeah. It's interesting. I don't know how many of our listeners share this too, but like you, I'm a huge fan of Tigger from Winnie the Pooh. And I was really excited to see that you're a huge fan of Tigger. Actually, I'm a fan of all of them because some days I feel like Eeyore and other times I feel like Piglet. So What is your fascination with Tigger?
The wonderful thing about Tiggers is Tiggers are wonderful things. Their tops are made out of rubber, their bottoms are made out of springs.
I mean, that sums it up.
Exactly.
They're bouncy, trouncy, flouncy, flouncy, fun, 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 fun. But the most wonderful thing about Tiggers is I'm the only one.
Now, not to say anything, Liberty, but I'm gonna ask community, how many of you know Tigger's theme song? I mean, bravo.
Yeah, Tigger is so he's irrepressible. He's always cheerful. He's playful. He really, sorry, menopausal moment, gotta lose the show. He just really rolls with the punches. You know, he doesn't seem to notice if anything's, well, it's not entirely true. He does notice. I mean, apparently his feelings can be hurt and he does get upset and he feels for his friends when things go wrong, but he doesn't let things get him down. He just bounces right back up again and, you know, on that springy tail of his. And he's like a big old ray of sunshine, I guess. He's really positive and inspiring, and he's kind of what I would aspire to be, I suppose.
You write on everything from fiction to nonfiction and a wide variety of topics. And in some of your writing, you do. I can see you almost channeling Tigger. What is some of the tips that you have for us to stay upbeat? I mean, I don't know about you, but because I know you're in the UK and I'm here in the States, I just feel like, okay, here we are, treading water again. Yet every time we chat, you're in always good spirits. So do you have any tips to keep us in good spirits? I mean, I know you've had your times, but most of the time you're in good spirits.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that, because I mean, it's been a pretty tough couple of years for me, not really related to COVID either. Other personal things that have been exceptionally challenging, but well, I know what it's like to really sort of be immersed in that and to just allow yourself to go to that dark, awful place. And that just feels so terrible. And I just feel like you attract more. You just, you know, it's, I think whether we want to call it law of attraction, or you just want to, you know, misery loves company, or however you want to look at it, when you're feeling down and miserable and in the depths of despair, everything just feels so awful. And how can you possibly even think about getting out of it when you're stuck like that? And it just, I don't understand. I mean, okay, I do, I've been there, but it's just a choice. I guess it's a choice to have hopeful thoughts, to focus on the blessings. There are always blessings, no matter how awful something is, no matter what, my own health, or you know what I mean? There's always something, even if you really have to sort of scrape the barrel to dig and find something. There are always blessings, and it's a choice. And the more you focus on the positives, the more of them you see. It's kind of like, if you're in that negative place, and it's like being a horse wearing blinders, and all you see is just that awfulness that's right in front of you. And as soon as you take off the blinders and you allow yourself to see the whole picture, then you see all the blessings. And hope is not a feeling that just sort of washes over you. It's a choice. It's a decision to not give up. It's a decision to just keep going until things get better, because they always do, one way or another. They always do. And you're more likely to find the answer if you stay on that positive path. So it's not like I never have tough times or feel down myself, but I'm really good now at kind of shifting those thoughts pretty quickly.
Absolutely. And I know one of the things that you and I have talked about before in our private conversations, and is this topic of letting other people know what they mean in your life, as well as that they matter. I just found that in your writings, you talk a lot about that topic of reaching out to others as well, how that can be healing in its own way.
Do I?
Stepping outside yourself. Yeah, I could point to several writings on Medium.
I know, I think that way. I don't know. I don't really pay attention to what I write, I guess. I just
or how it's interpreted.
It's interesting. I mean, I'm not saying I don't. Obviously I do. And I do think that way. I just didn't realize that I said that as much as I do. So that's actually interesting. Thank you.
I think it's important that we tell each other, especially during these times where we are isolated. We're not having tea in person or going for a walk together right now, any of those things. I think it's important that we tell people what's important about them in our lives. Now, you might say, oh my goodness, my spouse, they should know. I've been with them X number of years. They should know. I have to tell you, it's nice when somebody reminds you that you're important to them.
Yes, it can make the world a difference, especially if you're having a rough time. Could I share a little story about that?
Sure.
Oh, thank you. It was a long time ago. I was still living in Canada, and I was going through an exceptionally tough time with a lot of personal things, health issues, bad marriage, all sorts of things. And I usually did not eat at McDonald's. But there was, I liked it now and then, but there was one particular morning I dropped my children off at school and I decided I was going to go through the drive-thru and get an Egg McMuffin on the way home. And the lady who handed me the bag, the little bag with the muffin in it, was so cheerful. She was just like, oh, good morning, how are you? And just the way she spoke, I could tell that she loved her job. It was this beautiful big smile and it was sincere. It came from her heart. And that just lifted me so much that day. I started going for Egg McMuffins very regularly for the next several weeks. I went probably a few times a week, and I went specifically just to hear her cheery voice and see her smile. And it's making me weepy remembering that, because that got me through a really terrible time. And then there came a day when I went to the drive-thru, and by then we kind of would chat a little bit. And there was this day when she said that she was moving to Manitoba, which was a couple of provinces over from Alberta. And it was like the bottom fell out of my world. I know that sounds really silly, but that's how it felt in that moment. And it was all I could do to finish the conversation. And as I drove out of the parking lot, I just cried on the way home. Because I thought, what am I going to do without this lovely smile? It was bizarre. As it turned out, she didn't move. And by then things kind of got a bit better for me. But I finally told her sometime later what she had meant to me, or how that had got me through that really rough time. And she was absolutely overwhelmed. All it took was her just being cheerful and just being herself and being happy and smiling at me. And that got me through something that was really dark and difficult.
Wow, that's a beautiful story. It reminds me of the lady that I sometimes drive to her little drive-through to get tea. And she's always happy and chipper. And I always feel better, even though I don't know her really much other than the tea. I always feel better when I'm within her presence as I leave, like an afterglow of it. And that's so important for me to remember. Okay, am I leaving a trail of stardust, or coal dust, or whatever you would call it?
Yeah. And the other thing was, of course, I told this lady how she had impacted me. And I think that would have had to have left an impression. She was overwhelmed when I told her. Mm-hmm. And she was really shocked when I said how upset I had been when I thought she was moving. She just had no idea that she left that kind of an impression and made that big a difference. So, you're absolutely right in saying what people mean to us. It doesn't even have to be the people who are closest. It's good if it is. We should do that too. But sometimes we really don't think about those people who are kind of on the periphery of our lives, even if it's your dentist or your doctor or a receptionist or a cashier that you see at Safeway or whatever, all the time. I think it's really important to say something.
Absolutely. And I love that you had mentioned the word sincere, because sometimes if we say it too often, it can become insincere. How many times I'm thinking of when my kids were teenagers and I would say something as they're walking out the door, be safe, love you, and you'd get this sort of love you back. Now, it meant that they love me, but when it becomes habit, so you got me thinking here about, okay, how can I mix up these habits? Mix it up a little bit so something unexpected happens instead of the, okay, love you back kind of thing. I know that when my kids say that, they're sincere, but it's just, there's something about it that
You could always, I guess, get in the habit of stopping, taking them by the shoulders and look them in the face and say, I love you. You know what I mean? Like, really.
I would love to see what would happen. That would be a challenge to know. If I stopped him and looked him in the eye and took him by the shoulders, I think their first thought was, oh no, what did I do wrong?
Either that or, oh my God, she's dying.
Exactly. Well, that'd be an interesting sociological experiment within my home, I think, to do that. But it's a good reminder for me to not only be loving and sincere with those within my tight world, my bubble world, but also with those other people that have influenced me. I love this idea of making meaning, as you had talked about, and letting people know that they matter. I want to reference back to Sarah Payton. She's been on the show numerous times too. And one of her first interviews with us was, she mentioned that people have this little internal radar going around in their heads. And the first thing they ask is, am I safe? And then the second thing with this little internal radar is, do I matter? And that has stuck with me for a long time, to realize, it doesn't take a lot for us to express those moments that have meant something to us, to those that may not be aware.
It's true. It doesn't take much at all. A few words can make all the difference in the world.
Yeah.
And even in yourself, which brings me back to what I was saying before about choosing positive thoughts. So even when I'm having a tough time, a down day, something's going on, recent loss of somebody who was really dear to me, that sort of thing, you're bound to be affected by difficult things in life, but I can still choose more positive thoughts, or choose them as well, especially if you're dealing with something like a loss, a grief, that sort of a thing that kind of hangs in your energy. But if you can still find blessings, or think about the good things about that person and kind of focus on that more than the loss, at least it gives you some perspective. It kind of lifts you a bit out of just being down about whatever's going on in your life. It can still sort of give you a little balance.
Absolutely. And I want a little story here. I lost someone a couple of months ago, not related to the virus. And what was so interesting to me is, I've known them almost my entire life. And I could think of many wonderful things to say about them, but you know how sometimes at services, people will stand up and just say one memory of them. And what was fascinating to me is, one person stood up and said, I never heard him say a bad word about another person. And I had to stop and think about that. That had never entered my mind. But when I thought about it for a second, I went, well, they're right. I don't remember them ever saying any snide remarks or something behind quote somebody's back or anything. And I thought, wow. And then afterwards, as the main service broke up, I'm chatting with a few people, and they all commented, so-and-so was right when he said that. That's so fascinating. And we were all talking about how, gosh, that's something that I'm going to take to heart and really try to do better. And I thought, what a wonderful legacy and memory to leave is that made a lot of meaning and a lot of impression on a lot of us. And it's unfortunate we couldn't have said it while they were still here with us. But it really changed my view of his passing. So I love thinking about that memory and reminding myself, you could do better.
We can always do better, and we can always do worse.
Yes.
That's the thing, because we get stuck sometimes thinking on all that's wrong and all that's bad, and I messed up, I did that wrong, blah, 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 I'm a failure. Well, that's really not helpful to feeling better and doing better. If that's all you're going to focus on, then you get stuck there.
Yeah. I'm going to paraphrase a quote. I'll probably massacre it, actually. I'm just thinking about the topic of regrets and how regrets really don't get you anywhere. It's taking action to do better that gets you somewhere.
That's true.
I wish I could remember who said it, but somebody famous about living with regret and how it really just keeps you stuck. It doesn't get you anywhere or get anyone anywhere by living in regret. And so that's wonderful. Now we're at a time where I need to take the first commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk more with Liberty about this idea of all sorts of things, having fun. And she has this wonderful column on Medium called Hope, Healing, and Humor. I think that's the title. We'll talk to her about that when we come right back.
Life Interrupted Radio will return after these messages from our sponsors. It's great sponsors like these that keep this show coming to you every week. Be sure and stop by lifeinterruptedradio.com to learn more.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Hello, I'm Lisa Berry. Join me every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for Light on Living. A chance to see new, hear different, and feel more as I shine the spotlight on all the ways to lighten the load of life's challenges. Light on Living is your link to that new way you're looking for, that new understanding that will enhance your life, and that positive connection that will support your growth. So join me and you'll gain insight and start to see things in a new way that motivates you.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Listen and imagine. It takes 5 seconds to send a text, and for those 5 seconds, you're driving blind. Life is worth more than a text. Stay alive. Don't text and drive.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Sharon, and of course you know me from here on the Autoimmune Hour. Maybe you don't know I'm also an author. My latest book is for kids. It's Pinky Chenille and the Rainbow Hunters, a winner of a 5-star Reader's Favorite review. It's perfect for your early reader and a great bedtime story for your young adventurers. Check it out over at pinkychenille.com. That's PinkyChenille.com. See you there.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Sharon Sayler from SharonSayler.com. And tonight we're here with Liberty Forrest from LibertyForrest.com. You can find her over at Medium as well as many other places. She's a contributor to Huffington Post and in numerous other publications worldwide. And she's also a fiction author as well as a nonfiction author, as among many, many other things. And one of the things we're talking about today is just, having fun. Beginning the new year with a new frame of mind, shall I say, talking about hope and humor. And Liberty, you've got this wonderful, I guess they're called publication over on Medium now, Hope, Healing, and Humor. Is that the right title?
That's the right title, yep. And
I've contributed some different Q&As from different guests who've done transcripts with and onto that publication and had a wonderful time, as well as it's just lovely to read a lot of people who talk about positivity and how to go through your life, not being airy-fairy, but being deliberate in having hope and how it can impact our lives. So let's talk a little bit about some of the things that you've learned.
Oh, I love what you just said about that. That's also true. And the thing about being positive is so important to me. And I'm really picky about who I have as writers on both of my publications. They're both, the topics have to be something positive, uplifting, inspiring, and or entertaining. Informative, but it still has to be positive. It has to leave people feeling better than when they got there. That's my slogan, I suppose, and my motto. I like to be that way myself in the world. I know what it's like to need that sort of person or influence, to be the one who's on the receiving end of somebody being kind or funny or whatever it is. So Yeah, so I've invited writers, good writers, I'm in particular, which is why you've made it, because you're an excellent writer.
Oh, well, thank you.
And humor is so, so important. You know, there's that old saying about laughter being the best medicine. It certainly is right up there with the best. And did you know that a really good belly laugh can relax your muscles and de-stress you for up to 45 minutes? Just one really good laugh.
I didn't realize it was that long. I absolutely felt the physical transformation, but I didn't realize it was that long.
Yep, it'll relax your muscles for up to 45 minutes. Just one really good hearty laugh. And laughter decreases cortisol. And I'm sure, I think the way I put it in my article today was, unless you are living under a rock, you must know how dangerous ongoing high levels of cortisol. It's meant to help us in a fight or flight situation, but we're not always living like we're about to be attacked by the proverbial saber-toothed tiger. But that's how we feel when we're living with stress, or we allow ourselves to feel stressed. I like to tell people stress is actually kind of all up to you. You don't have to be stressed. It's you can choose to be stressed or not, and that happens in your mind. But yeah, cortisol is lethal when we have it ongoing all the time, and it causes all sorts of inflammation in the body, which does not help autoimmune issues, of course, can cause them. Heart problems, weight gain, and all that entails all sorts of problems from too much cortisol. So yeah, laughter will reduce cortisol levels, and it also increases serotonin, which is great for memory and concentration and better sleep, and it helps regulate your appetite and all sorts of good things. I think I wrote in there today too that serotonin is such great stuff. I'm sure there's somebody out there trying to bottle it and make an MLM product out of it, but
that would be good. For those who don't know what MLM is, multi-level marketing.
Yep. So. Yeah, sorry. But yeah, but all that just from laughing and choosing humor. If it de-stresses you and helps your physical and emotional well-being and your mental health, why wouldn't you want to laugh?
Oh, absolutely. And I have found even a forced laugh can make me feel better. One of the things I do before I get on video is I will giggle. And I know that sounds weird, but I will giggle. And there's something about it, relaxes my face. I breathe deeper. I just feel better than if I'm like, oh my, technology and me always sort of have conversations. And I have to giggle before I go on, because if I don't, I'm letting even just I'll put in air quotes, minor stress of dealing with technology. So I giggle before I go on air. It just makes me feel better.
Well, now you know why. It actually is physically, literally reducing your stress and relaxing your muscles.
And now this is a little morbid, guys. I'm going to take a left-hand turn here. But the other day, I'd never seen this movie. It was on late at night. I just happened to be cable creeping. And it's called The Bucket List with Nicholson and Morgan Freeman. And I had never watched it. I only got the last, half hour or something. I didn't see the whole thing, but they had this list and they were crossing off these things. And one of them was laugh until you cry. And in a very sad moment where, things are going very negative, they both have some, what I'll call sort of dark humor, and they both laugh until they cry. Now, I found that not that I agreed with the dark humor, but just watching someone laugh until they cry, even actors, I started laughing. It was almost contagious. And I thought, what an interesting thing on your bucket list, laugh until you cry. Okay.
That is really interesting. You're right. It is contagious, though. You think about it. If you just saw somebody sitting on a bus, for example, and just giggling, or on a park bench or something, and you sat and watched them long enough, or you think about watching shows like, what's that one? The one where they'd set people up anyway. But if you're just watching somebody who starts to laugh, what happens? You start to giggle.
Yeah.
And you don't even know why you're giggling, but you see other people laughing and you start to laugh. You can't help it. It is contagious.
Sometimes though, even though you do know why and you know you shouldn't be, but you're still laughing.
Yeah, I've had this big fear in my life that I'm going to crack up in the middle of something where it's really got to be really serious and quiet, just sort of like a nervous thing, or lose control of myself. I don't know, but I've always had this weird fear when I used to be I can't believe this, church organist and choir director. I know that's hilarious and well worth laughing about, but a long time ago, and about 16 lifetimes ago, I used to have that awful fear when I was playing for funerals. I'd be thinking, oh, like, I hope something doesn't make me crack up right now. And even if it was someone I loved and cared about and I was deeply upset, I just had this fear that something would make me laugh. Hasn't happened yet.
Well, sometimes though, it's almost for me, sometimes I have gotten to the point where I'm laughing so hard that I'm doubling over. And it's not really all that funny. I think it's a stress relief thing. I don't really understand why that happens. I can think of a couple of times in my life. I have a friend that really sees what I'll call the irony of life. That doesn't mean it's particularly funny. It's just sort of stating the obvious, where you're like, oh my gosh, you're so right. That is so obvious. Why can't people see how funny the obvious is? Mm-hmm. And they are so talented at stating the obvious in a way that's so matter of fact that people around them just start giggling, because it's like, we didn't know we could laugh at that. You know?
Yeah.
And I found that such a great stress relief to laugh at things. And I've told this story before here on the show about, most of you guys know that part of my autoimmune was losing skin, peeling skin, not pretty. And it was so funny. I had a rheumatologist and the dermatologist, and then I was at a training hospital. So this whole gaggle of wannabe doctors in there, sort of the dog and pony show of, okay, everybody, this is what this autoimmune condition looks like when it's full blown, right? Because it's rare and all of that. So I'd agreed to it, although it is kind of awkward. But anyway, we're talking, and they're talking about the loss of the skin, and I'm answering their questions and stuff. And I said, hey, look, free laser peel. And now I thought it was hysterical, but most of them, you could see a little bite the lip, giggle and things like that. But most of them, it was so funny. Was talking to a comedian friend of ours, Alicia Datner, afterwards. She goes, I don't think they knew they had permission to laugh. And sometimes you just have to find the humor in it. And I wish I had known that that's why they weren't laughing, is because I would have said, hey, you guys, that's funny. You can laugh at it. That's one of my better jokes. I'd laugh now. So anyway.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, realizing when we have permission, or giving people permission to laugh, is also an interesting one.
Yes.
How can we express our humor more? I mean, you've got so many creative outlets. You've got Witchy and all of your humorous writing that you do as well, and your creativity. You have the most beautiful and lovely, and sometimes humorous journals, things like that. When somebody feels like they don't have permission to be funny, how do you encourage people to say, sure you do?
I've never been asked that. I haven't thought about that either. I think certainly a sense of humor, some people have, our senses of humor are quite different from one another, generally speaking. And some people are just naturally funnier than others. But anybody can laugh at a joke. So we've all got a sense of humor, even if it's not sort of blatant and in your face. Everybody knows how to laugh at a joke. Everybody will have found something to be funny. And I think if you find more of what you enjoy, just look at YouTube and all the things that there are there to laugh at, all those dumb animal videos. They are just hilarious. So even something like that. But whatever you find to be funny, look up videos, or look up TED Talks, or look up sitcoms, or anything that kind of is in line with your type of humor, and just dive in and allow yourself to spend more time with it. And one thing I've always wanted to do is I love doing stand-up. I've only done a little bit of amateur stand-up, certainly nothing on a grand scale, but I love doing that. And I think I've always wanted to have this opportunity to take a bunch of people away for a weekend, a retreat, and talk about something really dark and difficult, and get them to kind of change their perspective about it, and end up doing a stand-up routine about it, even if it's just for the group. Actually, the theme that I had when I was contemplating that was talking about multiple marriages, because of course I've had, 107 or so.
Okay, back up, not quite that many.
Feels that way.
It just feels that way.
Yeah. I haven't quite caught up to Liz, but working on it. But I was
you got to aspire to something.
Yeah, I married half of Canada, was engaged to the other half, and then I moved to the UK and started there. But anyway, that's the sort of point is, I think laughing at yourself is the best place to start. Laugh at your own foibles, laugh at your own, whatever is not right in your world. Try to find the humor in it. And if you can't, if that's really a challenge for you, be with somebody that you love, a really good friend, somebody who you know is not going to make fun of you, but is going to laugh with you, and see if you can brainstorm some jokes about yourself, your problems, whatever's going on, just like you and I just did with your autoimmune issue and me with my 7 divorces?
Something like that. But this reminds me of the work of Patch Adams is his nickname. I think it's Hunter is his first name. And he was a doctor who had a movie made about him because he found that humor and dressing up as a clown, big red nose and that sort of thing, helped his patients tremendously. And I'm thinking about, personally, I'm not a clown fan. I don't really laugh at clowns. That's not my thing. But just this idea of not only bringing humor into his life, but bringing it into other people's lives as well. And he's got a lot of research on how it really helped the health of many, many people that he was involved with.
You've just reminded me about that film. I started to watch it and got sidetracked a couple of years ago. I think Robin Williams is in that one. So I would imagine that when it gets to I didn't see that. I only saw the first few minutes and I meant to watch the rest and never did. I'm going to have to see it now because I love Robin Williams. And talk about funny. Oh my goodness. But yeah, how beautiful to bring humor to other people. And yeah, I'm not a real clown fan myself, but some are. Some people like it. Some find them creepy. But yeah, humor, especially when you're sick. I mean, even my aunt who passed recently, when I had we'll call it a visit loosely over the internet 2 days before she passed, she couldn't even open her eyes and she was barely able to whisper a few words, but I was telling her some of my Witchy jokes. I was just going through Witchy's pictures and telling her these jokes. And even then, she still managed to smile a bunch of times. And there was one that was particularly bad that I'd love to share with you. And I told the joke and then she just went, "That's bad." But she still smiled.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we all sometimes enjoy those types of humors, even if we're not laughing really out loud. Inside, we're really cajoling.
Yep. I mean, even at the last part of her life, she was still able to connect with humor. I mean, to me, that just says it's an inherent, essential part of who we are. That's one of the biggest pieces of who we are, but it's one that we stifle, sadly. Mustn't be silly, don't want to be goofy, don't want to be playful, act like a child. There's a difference between childish and childlike. And I take every opportunity to be childlike, and you've seen it up close.
Yeah, well, what goes around comes around here too. Anyway, we got to take our second commercial break, but when we come back, I want to talk to you about what prompted Witchy to pop out, okay? Because I love Witchy. It's hysterical, and yes, sometimes it's like, oh, okay, I shouldn't laugh, but I'm laughing hysterically at what Witchy's foibles and tribulations and translations. So we'll be right back, and we'll talk about Witchy and how creating your own character can bring some joy into your life.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Change and growth are part of natural life, and also part of your spiritual life. Everyone needs support and guidance, especially during life passages. Upgrade yourself with the OMTimes Experts Program. With OMTimes experts, you have access to the best intuitive coaches, spiritual teachers, counselors, astrologists, and oracles. Our team was carefully selected so you can trust. Find out more at experts.omtimes.com.
Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy on Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern. Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
Do you want to be a better leader? Have better relationships? Become more self-aware? Be a better communicator? Hi, I'm Sharon Sayler, best-selling author, professional speaker, and executive coach. And my life passion is empowering professionals to be the best that they can be. After years of working with professionals, I've discovered the 7 things nobody is telling you that can cost you your clients, sales, and even your career. And I want to give it to you free. You've heard my show, you know my passion, and maybe we'll be working together sooner rather than later. So go grab this ebook now to find out the 7 things that's costing you big time over at SharonSayler.com/radio gift.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Autoimmune Hour. I'm Sharon Sayler from SharonSayler.com, and I'm here with Liberty Forrest from LibertyForrest.com, as well as many other places. She's a well-known author and contributor to publications worldwide. And on the side, and no more really much on the side because becoming quite well-known, is this little character called Witchy. And I find it hysterical because Liberty and Witchy have these most amazing, insightful, childlike, funny conversations. And I just crack up sometimes when I hear the two of them arguing. So, Liberty, first off, I find it incredibly creative. And, sometimes I go, I'm not sure I want to go wherever my friend goes to find this stuff. but first off, I want to congratulate you on Witchy because I absolutely adore her.
Thank you.
She's getting quite a following over there at Medium and Patreon, and then I think over at Ko-fi too. But how did you find her?
Well, it's kind of a bizarre story. I'm not actually sure exactly where she came from, except that I'd actually been researching how to be successful on YouTube, because that's when I was doing readings, psychic readings on YouTube, and that was going really well. And I was sort of looking at another way to do that. And long story short, I knew I needed something that, if you're investigating what goes viral or what is successful, you need a story, you need something quirky and unusual, and it needs to elicit emotions. And I don't really know. That's all I had, those 3 points. And I remember where I was sitting on my sofa in my apartment in Calgary. And I don't know where the idea came from, but all of a sudden, and it was going to be me dressed up as this witch, but I had this idea. There's this witch who comes from Transylvania forest, and she's suddenly been forced to become vegan. Some trauma happened to her, and she's forced to be vegan. And now, because she's vegan, she can't use eye of newt or bat wings or rat toes or anything. And so now all her spells are going wonky, and all the other witches laugh her out of the forest. And her pinhead boyfriend, Vladimir, the 712-year-old vampire, dumped her, couldn't stand her vegan breath because, he's all about the blood and that stuff. So she packed up her cauldron and her toothbrush and her stamp collection and moved to England. That was the story. So what I was going to do was dress as this witch on YouTube and review vegan and vegetarian and like health food products and natural products and that sort of thing, because I know those are really hot topics. So that was this. I got the purple hat with the big spider on it, and I got the crazy blue wig, and all that, did all the stuff got the dress, the whole thing. But I was really busy with the psychic readings. And then I ended up moving to England rather unexpectedly, and Witchy just kind of got shelved because I knew once I started with that, it was going to take a lot of time. And then I got into other things, and then I started thinking, nah, I don't think I want to do that with her. But, I was back in England, and there are a lot of stand-up stages here that you can get on. It's really difficult in Calgary. It's just not enough of them. So I thought, that would be fun to be Witchy on the stage and do stand-up as this witch and telling her stories. And somehow or other, I don't really know, one day I had the idea to start drawing as Witchy. Just what would Witchy draw? I don't know where the idea came from. Almost felt like, I guess, a channeled thing, because I was sitting at my desk and I drew a kind of a jiggly looking cube, and all it says at the top is tofu, and at the bottom Y with an arrow. There's an arrow pointing tofu to this lump, and Y with a question mark, because she's not liking being vegan. And then the next one was mornings are stupid, and she's lying in bed chucking her alarm clock. I just started drawing these dopey pictures, and then one sort of turned into the next, and all of a sudden I was thinking of like stupid expressions. I've always had a thing about stupid English expressions, and then thinking about them from her perspective. Suddenly she just kind of became more real. She became this other being. It wasn't me. It was like this other little, well, she is obviously a part of me, but she became separate. It wasn't me going to dress up as Witchy. Now there's this separate being. And she just kind of took on a life of her own. I started drawing those pictures with her with the giant eyes and her big spider on her hat. And and she's phobic about spiders too. She says, that's my desensitization therapy. I know it's up there, but I don't have to look at it. But see, what she was meant to be was a symbol of change and transformation and facing your fears, because she did not like becoming vegan, forced to become vegan, hated it, all these new things that she didn't like. And it was kind of a symbol of what happens when we go through major change in our lives, whether it's losing a job or a marriage or all of that, losing everything you've got, moving to a whole new place. Everybody can relate to that kind of loss and change. And Witchy was meant to sort of, even back in the beginning, when it was about the YouTube thing, her story was what was going to be important. And it was about overcoming these obstacles and embracing something new when you're forced into a lot of change that you really don't like and didn't want. And how do you stay positive through that? How do you find the blessings in it? So that was her story. It was meant to be her story, and telling the story while she was reviewing these products. But instead, I've ended up doing that with her through these usually one frame jokes, just taking old dumb jokes. But she gets so mad at me when I call them that, because they're not jokes to her. This is her living her life, and she doesn't understand that they're funny. She's just explaining, she's showing what happened in her experiences. So she doesn't get that they're funny, which is why now we have these little stories, these conversations that I'm writing, and I'm now starting to create the videos to go with those. So we will be narrating them like in her introduction video that you've seen.
And they're awesome. And I want to encourage people to just sit with their creativity and find what bubbles up. Pinky Chenille, my first children's book, I've got a couple more coming out under that series. It came to me in a similar way. I just wasn't really thinking about it. In the middle of the night, about 2 a.m., I woke up, had a dream about Pinky, and there was the whole story. Now, on my side, it took me about another 3 or 4 years to learn how to write a children's book, which is very different from any kind of book I've ever written before. So it wasn't magical, although the moment was magical. Pinky came, and the whole story was there. I popped out of bed at 2 a.m. and whip out some paper and start writing it down. So I just know me, I didn't want to forget it. And I look back at that original story and I go, not bad. Not the story that finally came out polished and all, shiny and pretty. But the basic parts of that were there. And I want to encourage people to honor this part of their creativity, especially as they're going through so much change right now. we're trying to make sense of so much. If, allow it to be expressed through creative thought, and what would happen if, and oh goodness sakes, there's another dumb joke about it. Well, okay, that's fine too.
Yeah, I think part of the issue I think people are having these days with humor and not feeling like they can be funny is we're being silenced because, oh, heaven forbid you should inadvertently offend somebody at like any ethnic jokes. I mean, if I'm Jewish, not observant anymore, but I'm Jewish, and even I don't feel like I dare tell a Jewish joke. A rabbi used to tell them in the synagogue on Saturday mornings. He'd start every service with a ridiculous Jewish joke. They were great. It's got to the point now where it's almost like we've lost our sense of humor. We don't dare laugh at anything because we're going to offend someone. I think that's part of the problem. At least for me, I'm really feeling it. Maybe that's just because humor is so important to me and I pay attention to that. But I really struggle sometimes. I can't tell you how many witchy jokes don't get told. I'm looking through jokes. Oh, can't tell that, can't tell that, can't tell that, can't tell that. It just, we can't laugh at ourselves anymore. We can't laugh at each other anymore. And just, why not? It doesn't have to mean that we hate these people or like it. I just think it's gone too far.
Yes, there is that fine line between humor and bullying and humor and going too far. And yeah, it's an interesting topic. Unfortunately, we're down to about 4 minutes. So maybe that we're going to have to put a bookmark in and come back to that. So I do want to wrap this up with just some final thoughts on how people can find their creativity if they're listening to this and say, yes, I want to do it. I know you do a lot of journaling and things like that. What are some ways that when Witchy, the dumb joke isn't coming to you, or maybe the article isn't coming to you? What are some things you do to spark your creativity?
Oh gosh, I have a hard time turning my creativity off, to be honest. It is really difficult for me, and that's part of why I have trouble sleeping. Have I ever really had trouble with that? I really don't know. Oh, there is one thing I would say. One thing I know a lot of people tend to do is stifle it. They're so used to hearing or thinking, oh, that will be ugly if I do that. I can't paint. I can't draw. I don't know how to tell a joke, or I don't know how to knit, or whatever the thing is, even if it's music lessons. This is one of my favorite things people will say when they hear that I love to play classical music. They'll say, oh, I wish I could play like that. Well, you're still vertical and breathing. You still have a pulse. So take lessons. Oh, I'm too old. And no, like I just said, you're still vertical breathing. You have a pulse. You're conscious. You can still learn. I think indulging in something that would feel like fun, or if you just kind of imagine, what would I do if I were going to be creative? What would it be? What would it look like? Because sometimes they've just stuffed it. I have heard people say that they don't even know what they would do until they start thinking about it, till they give themselves permission. What would I do if I could be creative? If I were creative, what would that look like? And then listen to what comes up and try it, and never mind judgment. There is no good or bad with art, for example.
I want to replace that idea. If I were creative, what about when I'm creative? What are you doing when I'm creating?
Well, what I meant was just because people, it's like that feels like too much pressure for some of them. It's like, because I'm not the go-to, but I'm not. Yeah. So if you just let them play with it, if they say I'm not creative, what would it look like if you were? I just mean like that, just to open that door. What would it look like? What would I do? It kind of is, it takes off the pressure.
Right. And I like to say, what did you do? What did you love to do as a kid?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Because I think a lot of the automatic creativity comes out when you're a kid. I mean, I look at my grandkids and just the irony that they see as a kid, I mean, is hysterical. But
I started painting about 15 years ago. And I started with a whole wall. I decided, I'd like to do a mural. I did my whole bedroom wall.
Let's jump in with both feet. Let's do I haven't painted in years, but let's do a mural.
Yeah. I had no idea. I kept saying I can't paint, but I could see this mural in my head. And then I decided, well, actually, you know what? If it looks terrible, I'll just paint over it. And it actually turned out okay. And I ended up doing all the walls I could do in my house and other people's homes. And then I started on something smaller. Then I moved to canvas.
Awesome. Well, we're down just to the final minute, Liberty. Thanks for sharing some time with us about humor and hope and creativity and how you find your inner spark.
Thank you. I'm just really a big kid, so it's easy.
Well, I want to encourage all of us, even if we wouldn't label ourselves that, to find that big kid inside you, or the little kid, or the lost kid, or, the happy kid, whatever. Find that little inner child or children. I like to think I have a whole chorus in here, coming up with all sorts of little things to do, and find that and give it a try. See what happens, especially during this particular time. Let's all find the humor in life.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation to be here. It's always so much fun to come and play with you. Thank you.
Thank you, sweetie. It's awesome. Everyone, join me next week for another brand new episode. Enjoy.
The information provided on the Autoimmune Hour, Understanding Autoimmune, and Life Interrupted Radio, including the websites understandingautoimmune.com and lifeinterruptedradio.com, plus social media, is for educational purposes only. What you read, hear, and see on the Autoimmune Hour, Understanding Autoimmune, and Life Interrupted Radio, and its websites, and other media outlets is based on experience only. The information should never be used for any legal, diagnostic, or treatment purposes.
Research shows we apologize up to 10 times a day, and most of the time, we say sorry as a response to someone else's mistake. What if we thanked people instead of all that unnecessary apologizing? So instead of saying, sorry, I'm rambling, you say, thank you for listening. Join us at projectforgive.com, a free, non-religious resource on global forgiveness.